pequena, do tamanho da antena parabólica, mará, volta do mundo, camará, mundo da volta, camará.
So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are around the world. It's a pleasure to begin this table about popular music studies in Latin America. It is a table that we organized in the Latin America branch of IASPM. And we thought at first a bit difficult to organize a meeting. We have a very huge branch with more than 300 participants. So how could we choose people to represent our branch in a meeting such as like this? And we have chosen to have a table, a more general table about what was being done, on which we can say a bit what is being done in popular music studies in Latin America. It's impossible to do that. We've been doing lots of things, but we can have a kind of a glance of some few topics and thematics that are around our congresses and our conversations. And to do that, we invited two former chairs of the branch, Marta Ulloa and Julio Mendívil. So I welcome both of you. And also we invited Laura Jordan, who is chairing the next meeting, the next Congress, which will be happening next year. So it's a kind of, we were joking before this meeting today, something like the past, the history, the present, and the future of our branch, of our association regarding Latin America popular music studies. So I am not going to take too much time. Now I'd like to invite Marta to begin this presentation, which is about the history of popular music studies in Latin America, and especially those related to Latin America branch. Marta, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and at least seeing some of old friends that we don't have the opportunity to see. And I'm going to speak a little bit about the beginnings of IASPM. And so I wrote something I usually don't read, but I'm going to write because I'm going to read because of the time. And just like the international IASPM, which, as Philip Tagg comments, was created out of a conversation between friends in a pub, the idea of a Latin American discussion group started with a conversation around a bar table in La Boca, Buenos Aires, on the right, between Ricardo Salton, currently a music critic in Buenos Aires, and with a radio program, very nice, Así de Simple. Oh, let me put this down. Sorry. Yesterday, I mean, the internet is good because of that. I could, oh my goodness. Well, let me turn it off. Okay, that's the best. Well, anyway, he has a very interesting program on the Radio Nacional Clásica. It was Ricardo Salton, Juan Pablo González, currently at Universidad Alberto Hurtado, and me, currently at the Universidade Federal do Estado do Rio de Janeiro. We were participating in the annual Congress of the Argentine Association of Musicology in 1995. We had met in Havana the previous year on the occasion of the Hemispheric Congress on Popular Music, Hemispheric Conference, that's how they say, at the Casa de las Américas under the coordination of Alberto Falla. The event in Cuba was a meeting of the North American section of IASPM, whose members went to great lengths to attend the event via Canada, given the United States restrictions on Cuba. In Havana, most presenters, despite speaking fluent Spanish, read their communications in English. This bothered me a lot, and when I commented on the malaise of speaking badly in a foreign language about one's own music with Ricardo and Juan Pablo, we reached the consensus that a forum on Latin American music should be held at least in the predominant languages in the continent, Spanish and Portuguese. Considering the Congress in Havana as the starting point, we have scheduled a second meeting entitled Problems and Cases of Popular Music in Latin America. The conference was held in Santiago, Chile, between March 24th and 27, 1997. Organized by the Chilean section of IASPM at the time, they had a Chilean one, by the Argentina National Institute of Musicology, Carlos Vega, and the Brazilian Villa-Lobos Institute. There were 38 communications from Argentines, Brazilians, Chileans, Mexicans, North Americans, Peruvians, and Uruguayans, from perspective of musicology, music analysis, sociology, ethnomusicology, folklore, anthropology, literature, history, and philosophy. The proceedings were published with the title of Popular Music in Latin America and were edited by Rodrigo Torres and are available on the IASPM Latin America page. That you have there over there. As are most of the proceedings of the other events, but the last one is still in preparation. At the General Assembly in Santiago, the participants did not reach an agreement on the feasibility of founding the association at the time, postponing it to the next meeting of the group. In Santiago, we had a sample of the breadth of the notion of popular music in Latin America. Practices considered popular by the participants ranged from the traditional local events such as the Carnival of Ayacucho, Peru, to a wide variety of pop and rock expressions, and to types of progressive pop, in which musicians use composition techniques from concert music in their works. This is a characteristic aspect of Latin American culture, as Canclini recalls, and in his concept of multitemporal heterogeneity, that is, the coexistence of modern practices alongside or entangled with traditional practices, as well as the hybrid results of the interweaving between the cultivated, the popular, and the massive. The third IASPM Latin America was held in the city of Bogota, Colombia, between August 23rd and 27, 2000, with the support of the Colombian Ministry of Culture, the Academia Superior de Artes de Bogotá, and the District Institute of Culture and Tourism of Bogotá. Bogotá was a remarkable meeting in two ways. First, by expanding the number of people from different countries participated, more than 100, among several places. Second, due to the impact of the event both on the academic community, just to mention the participation, for example, of late Gerard Berrag as a registered exhibitor. He applied to come to the conference, and as well as among artists, teachers, and music students who started to participate in the network of scholars of popular music in Latin America. The presentations during the third conference were divided into 4 streams: interactions between the global and the local, popular music and education in Latin America and the Caribbean, the history of popular music in Latin America and the Caribbean, and disciplinary discourses around popular music. The fourth IASPM took place in Mexico City from April 2nd to 3rd to 6th, 2002, with the support of the Institute of Music of PUC, Chile, and the National Council for Culture and the Arts of Mexico. The event was organized around 4 plenary sessions: music and media, center and periphery, popular music and identity, research methodologies, addressing themes of general interest, and 8 parallel working groups, research groups, centered on specific themes like music analysis, social change, education, several music genres, and we all have something on rock, tango, bolero, cumbia, jazz, and fusion, etc. Therefore, the fifth IASPM took place in Rio de Janeiro, and that's the last one that I'm going to talk about, just to give you a glimpse of the beginnings of IASPM in Latin America. And it was promoted by 3 different universities and support of 3 different funding institutes. It happened in between the June 21st and 25th of 2004. It was organized into around 4 thematic themes: popular music and territory, meaning city, place, and globalization; popular music and violence; subjects and objects, limits, conditions, and meanings; popular music genres: samba, tango, choro, son, bolero, nueva canción, rock, rap, etc.; listening points, approaches, and methods of studying popular music. And the Congress, it opened by a conference by Philip Tag, who spoke about music management of anguish and patterns of subjectivity in contemporary societies. After that, I put all those so that you can see how some of the themes, they have remained, but we expand a lot in our discussions. After that, we held meetings in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 2005, Havana, Cuba, 2006, Lima, Peru, Alma, Coração e Vida, very, very beautiful, 2008, Caracas, Venezuela, 2010, Córdoba, Argentina, 2012, Salvador, Bahia, 2014, again Havana in 2016, San Juan, Puerto Rico, 2018, and Medellin, Colombia, 2020, this last one in virtual format. The next conference will take place in Valparaíso, Chile, and will be the subject of Laura Jordan's presentation. Today, we have affiliates from 11 countries in Latin America and from 9 countries outside the region. And the only thing that I want to finish is that long live IASPM Latin America. And that's all. Thank you. Let me stop the sharing.
Thank you, Martha. I think I have a very good uh, historical background, brief and very consistent historical background of our branch and how these thematic issues are going to be revisited and how they the growth of the branch as well. It's very interesting to see that. Well, now I'd like to hear from Julio Mendivil. Who is your presentation? Please, Julio.
Thank you very much, Felipe. I'm very happy to be here and to share this time with you and with many colleagues. I'm especially, I will especially thanks to you, Felipe, for organizing this roundtable. I will present the mailing list of IASPM Latin America, and I will show the dynamic the list has and which topics have been relevant in recent times, I would say. Before I begin to evaluate our mailing list, I want to say that my comments express only my impressions and my opinions as a member of IASPM Latin America. And it could be that the things I say are orientated by my interest, by reading the discussions in the list. In this sense, my statement reflects a personal and not an institutional position. The first thing I want to do is a short typology of the list's members. In doing so, I want to show that the discussions do not necessarily offer a portrait of the Latin American popular music researchers, but a portrait of the power relationships between different types of personality traits in the list. The first type I want to present is the readers. There is a lot of members in our list who read regularly the mails, but without participating in an active way. They are, so to speak, consumers in the list, and they are also very important because a goal of this list is to distribute knowledge and information. The second type I find is the informers. There are people who write constantly, sending information on calls, congresses, conferences, publications, and so on. I see them as consumers and producers, and they are also important in the group, a very important group in the list. Also, they are in a way invisible sometimes. The third type of participants are the questioners, people who are asking for some kind of information. A good part of these mails contains questions about bibliography, personal contacts, and methodologies. Sometimes such questions initiate some interesting discussions on academic and political issues. For example, a topic which we discussed is the access for foreign academic literature in our institutions in Latin America. This is completely different, for example, as the access you have in the USA or, for example, here in Europe. Other problems we comment many times is the distributions problems of books published in other Latin American countries. The fourth type of lists participants are, for me, the reacting members. That is, people who discuss as reaction when someone publishes an entry. They are very active, in as much as they are the ones who hold the discussions many times. No? And the last type, I will call this last type as the discussion generators. They are people who are constantly introducing new topics for discussion. And it is interesting to notice that they are maybe the most active group in the list. Of course, my classification is only hypothetical. There are surely other types of members that I have not perceived. Other aspect which I think is important to remark is that the two last types I mentioned are minority groups. Nevertheless, they dominated the discussions. Theoretically, there are not hierarchies between members in Latin America, in IASPM Latin America. Our habitus is colloquial, friendly, and egalitarian. But I suppose that things like success, degree, academic position, or age or membership seniority influence the power relationship between members during the discussions. The second point I can classify is the topics we discuss. In my opinion, there are 4 types of topics which are present in our discussions: theoretical, methodological, disciplinary, and political topics. While methodological discussions are infrequent in our list, theoretical, disciplinary, and political issues seems to be the topics which produce more interchange between us. In order to explain that, I will comment some discussions we have had the last year. I have selected 3 discussions which have produced between 35 to more than 60 mails per discussion. The first long discussion was related to the pandemic. The COVID-19 influenced our life. Of course, this includes the production and consumption of music. Towards the end of March, we began to discuss the impact of the pandemic in the do-it-yourself industry in Latin America, and began to analyze which strategies musicians are using in Latin America in order to get money with their music in a pandemic situation. As we noticed that our research object was changing, we also began to discuss our methodologies. How can we do fieldwork in a lockdown situation, for example? How could define my field now if the whole world becomes virtual? Many colleagues commented experiences with tools like Zoom, we are doing now, or for example, YouTube or other platforms, and also their impression of the virtual concerts they visited. Others reflected on their own music practices and discussed how they fight against isolation and frustration during the first lockdown. The second discussion I noticed was a theoretical one. We discussed as the first day of September what is and how is constructed academic knowledge. A personal experience of a member brought to the question how we decide what is a good academic dissertation or a good book, on how we can define academic knowledge in order to differentiate it from musicians or consumers' knowledge on music. We discussed issues like scientificity and the criteria with which we evaluate dissertations, talks, and articles, and the differences between paradigms in academic fields like musicology, popular music study or media studies, and hard sciences. We also discussed the different traditions in our countries. I would say in every country there is a very long tradition, a very strong tradition in popular music studies, and depending of this history, there is also a link to folklore studies and so on. The discussions turned to other topics like what is our research object in popular music studies, or if we want to speak in the first person plural, when we say we, who are we? And when we speak about a community, how is this community built? Other point which we discussed during this topic was how we mean with the Spanish or Portuguese word popular. As Laura Jordan has shown, the polysemic character of the word popular in Latin America allows or forces us to work with a broader spectrum than in the USA or in Europe. Popular music in Latin America is also strong related to traditional music. The questions like this are never answered, but they do generate important statements on the list and motivate us to rethink and reflect on our research practices. Discussions are not always successful as one wants. When the scandal on Daniela Brown broke out in the Society for Ethnomusicology, for example, and issues like racism and intersectionality won topicality in the music studies around the world, I tried to initiate a discussion on racism and power relationship in our list. My idea was to promote a reflection on racist structures in our association and to develop strategies in order to stop invisible forms of discrimination in the academic world in Latin America. But the discussion turned quickly to a completely different topic: how much racism suffer musicians with whom we work. I don't know if it was a semantic shift or if we are not yet able to discuss our own racism and power relationships. IASPM is a multidisciplinary association, you know, but when I evaluate our discussions, I have the impression that our branch seems to have a strong musicological identity. Many topics we discuss are linked to problems which I would consider as typical musicological issues. Although music theoretical methods are not hegemonic in IASPM Latin America, we come back again and again to the question, what is popular music and how important it is to analyze the sonic structure of music if we want to explain the social interaction with it. Nevertheless, there are many colleagues who are working only on lyrics or on social aspects of music like class, gender, or age. I already told you that our discussions do not bring solutions for the problems we discuss. However, the evaluation of the list should be positive for me if we consider that two publications initiated in our list interchanges. Música Popular y Juicios de Valor, una reflexión desde América Latina, Popular Music and Value Judgments, a reflection from a Latin American perspective, edited by Francisco Sanz and Rubén López in 2011, and Made in Latin America, edited by Christian Spencer and me in 2016. We are still waiting for a third book, and I think maybe you are interested in editing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julio. I think it's a very challenging talk for us who have access to this list. I think we can discuss a bit some of this question raised after we hear from Laura, her talk. And Laura, welcome. I missed your
Thank you.
welcome for you, and now you have the word here.
Thanks again for the invitation. I also wrote something in order to save time, so here it is. My intervention today is related to the organization of our next international conference, which will be held in Valparaiso in September of 2022. As the chief of the local organizing committee and member of the Latin American branch for 15 years now, my intention is to share with you some of the ideas and challenges that we face as popular music scholars in the region. Regarding the challenges at stake, it is important to highlight the impact on our academic activities of social and economic inequalities that characterize our field and working contexts. In particular, our universities and academic institutions have been permeated by neoliberal measures. In Chile, for example, former public universities were dramatically transformed during Pinochet's dictatorship. They are currently managed according to entrepreneurial principles. Lacking sufficient public funding, they have to survive via the selling of educational services. This means that free education does not exist in our country and that class segregation is replicated, if not augmented, in the university space. For popular music studies, these conditions imply the existence of a cultural gap between many popular music scenes and academic institutions, inasmuch as the distribution of wealth and cultural resources is class-centered. This is a clear challenge for an organization such as IASPM, which intends to build bridges between diverse popular music agents and not only among scholars. Historically, the conferences organized by the Latin American branch have included music activities, such as workshops, concerts, as well as some guest speakers coming from outside academia. These connections must be enhanced in order to contribute to the creation of more inclusive spaces in which popular knowledge can be shared. In the case of our next conference in Valparaiso, it is my interest that international popular music scholars could get in touch with musicians, artists, social organizers, and people from civil society involved in the popular music scene. In the context of a global pandemic crisis, all of this entails asking ourselves about our potential capacity to contribute towards the betterment of local music industries and practices. The title of our coming conference is Fronteras, Rutas y Horizontes, that is, Borders, Paths, and Horizons. We intend to address the relevance of migration and material exchanges. Movement and displacement of bodies and things have proved crucial for the configuration of Latin American history, not only at the moment of its initial colonization 5 centuries ago, but also at every moment in which Latin American peoples have creatively occupied its territories through wars, recessions, revolutions, and resistances. In the second decade of the 21st century, trespassing frontiers is also a matter of contingency. In a post-national era, however, past national identities are still in dispute, especially in countries where governments have failed to acknowledge our colonial wounds, and more importantly, the pervasive colonial structures which still endanger the lives of native peoples. Thus, the invitation to reflect upon borderlines seeks to rethink these internal borders and how they impact on music in particular and on culture in general. In theoretical terms, we are also expecting to discuss borderscapes. In particular, we hope to activate a discussion around Fernando Ortiz's critical notion of transculturation, which may be conceived of as one of the key concepts developed in Latin American cultural theory, alongside others such as hybrid cultures and others. Another important object of inquiry is translation. Our branch encompasses not only a wide range of nations, each with some of their official languages, notably Spanish and Portuguese, but also diverse contact zones sheltering multilingual cultural practices. In addition, massive migration towards foreign lands in the global north has intensified processes of language acquisition and modification. This has an impact on music, both in the circulation of repertoires and in the diversification of linguistic conditions for studying our own cultures. Translation also touches on the work we deploy as scholars, as we're in a constant need to internationalize our discussions, not necessarily in order to update our debates by synchronizing them with the West, but most importantly, in order to envision new paths for communicating with a diversity of interlocutors. Our next conference will explore emerging music scenes and the imagination of a new Latin America, performative and sonic practices related to social movements in the context of massive protests around the world provide a fruitful scenario to experimentally deploy different ways of occupying public spaces and reshaping urban soundscapes. How do musical practices take part in the current strategies to resist racism, ageism, ableism, classism? How does music itself recast gender narratives? What can the emerging musical practices reveal about social change, and so on? Although all of these questions could be answered via individual papers and case studies, our conferences are organized following a structure that ensures transdisciplinarity and internationality. More concretely, our call for papers invites the organization of symposia, provided that two or more conveners are able to articulate a specific stream present in the general call. In the last conference, 16 symposia were organized, some of which by the permanent working groups that function under the umbrella of our Latin American branch of IASPM. These structures enables us to optimize the programming task, while at the same time ensuring that more people get involved in decision-making processes and responsibilities. At the end of the day, symposia also become fertile land to pursue ongoing debates that are not merely encapsulated within a biennial meeting. And we look forward to meeting you all in Valparaiso next year. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Now we're supposed to have still something around 15 minutes so that we can exchange some ideas, some thoughts. I wonder if anyone wants to say something about what has been said.
There is one question already in the chat.
I am very bad with chat. I have to take a look at it.
Do you want me to read it? Or Michelle can read it. Michelle, would you read your question, please?
Yes, it's better.
Yes, hi. I was just emphasizing Laura's comments. I think that was a statement she made, but how does music itself recast gender narratives? How do we think about, you know, questions of its race, you know, not from the US context where I am, but, you know, how does that, what are those hierarchies in Latin America? How are they different from the US? How do they overlap? How do we think about indigenous and native contributions in Latin America and the diaspora, right? And what are those conversations in music? So I was just doing like a high five over Zoom. So thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to comment on something, Laura?
No, thank you. Cool. I don't have the answers for all that. But I actually think that we have a debt regarding the colonial structures, even in our own organization. Some of this was suggested by Julio's talk, our own power structures and dynamics, and that touch not only gender, but also racial and class, of course, differences among us, and also related to the civil society, which is something we need to work on, I think. Thank you.
I would say that IASPM Latin America reflects the same structure we have in our countries. This is very similar situation. For example, we don't have indigenous population in our association. And I think this is a problem that has to do with the structure of our countries and exclusion policies in our countries.
And also, I think if we can see again Marta's map, we can see that we are lacking members, especially in those countries where indigenous native population is most, it's bigger, let's see. So we don't have members from Bolivia, Paraguay, and other countries, and even in our countries, which also have indigenous population, they're not part of our organization, and we need to ask, at least ask ourselves why. Yeah.
I just want to say I'm part of the executive board of the POP conference that usually comes out of Seattle, but now is moving to NYU. And so that is a constant conversation that we have, especially when we're living in Seattle and there are so many tribal communities nearby. And so, but this year, our conference is this year, and we worked really hard to make sure that there was at least one panel that was focused on indigenous musics. It happens to be about the Pacific Northwest, but that is a real, you know, we're trying hard and really trying to incorporate or connect, build relationships, really. So we're trying to do. And, you know, I'm connected with feminista hip hop artists in Ecuador who are rapping in Quechua, right? Or part of the Afro or Black indigenous feminista movement that is huge in Ecuador. And it's so amazing those discussions that are having in the music. I mean, it's so important. And I think how are we even hearing about the feminist movement, the Black indigenous feminist movement in Ecuador? It's through the hip hop, it's through that scene, it's through the music. And so I think, you know, I'm located in gender studies, gender, women, and sexuality studies. So my challenge is also opening up the field to taking seriously, as you said, you know, music itself can recast gender questions, right? How do we have a large international, when it's even just hard within the US Academy to have popular music taken seriously, much less popular music from Latin America, right? That's the struggle that we're in. And my focus is on Chicano music. So well, you know, transnational, but Chicano, Chicanx musics, and in relation to Puerto Rican and Cuban American musics, right? We have that long history, and Black music in the US. But now, you know, we really want to have that bigger conversation about what is the conversation we can have through music around social justice through the feminista hip hop in Ecuador and Mexico, right? Against the Vivas Nos Queremos. So this, I'll stop there, but I think this is really exciting. I'm looking forward to the conference.
We've got here in the chat Abner Perez, raised hand.
I wanted to say something about that to Michelle, because I would say we have a lot of members who are working on indigenous music, indigenous popular music, but we don't have members, we don't have indigenous members. This is the thing. And I think this is a mirror of our societies.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, so that how do we build those relationships so that we have those members from those communities? I mean, that's the issue, right? It's about putting time in and building relationships. It's going, you know, I don't know what else to do.
Abner?
Yeah, hi everybody. I just want to comment. I'm from Ecuador, so I think I'm going to give an insider intervention here, and it's very nice to see Julio and Laura and meet everybody here. And I am surprised to know that we are not part of the of the AL branch. I am from Ecuador, but my education was in the UK, and I'm now based in Germany. I'm doing my PhD about decolonial education in Ecuador, higher education in Ecuador. So answering somehow Michelle's intervention is, I know that we have the willingness to be part of, and there are plenty of Aboriginal and indigenous people working in education that will be really happy to be part of this network. So I think it's just a matter of building and strengthening these activities and making it happen, because even though we reflect, I agree with that statement, we reflect the situation of societies in a macro level, but I think we also have more agency to change the organization from within. So let's hope that gets a momentum, because I'm pretty sure that we will be on board to be part of that change. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to add something, what is interesting, a part of what Laura, in her speech, she said, we're not going to solve this kind of inequality that's part of our continent, of our world, but it's very important. And also would like here to make a link with the typology that Julie provided us about our own list, which is very interesting to see how power hierarchies and inequalities happens in lots of different levels regarding the framework of music studies and popular music studies. It's very interesting to face the fact that we have no power to change this. We won't change the world, unfortunately, but we can do something on this direction. That's the point. I think I really loved what Laura said regarding the organization of the next conference, because for me, it's a matter on making few steps and small steps, I would say. But these small steps are very important for us to be, at least to be aware of the kind of power we have and what we claim for. We usually regret not having power. If you compare to European universities, if you compare to Anglophones popular music studies, there is always this struggle in Latin American lists and also in the corridors. But we have also our power, which we make against, or we can try not to be against, but we have this power in our associations, in our universities, and so on. It's very important to be aware of this, at least for the beginning. So I really love this kind of way of thinking that allows us to put it bigger in a larger scale. That's what I was thinking about. Anybody else wants to add something?
No, because it's directly related to one of the discussion in the list about like scientificism, like I mean, how come you have a language that is superior as an academic to the, I mean, the musician, right? It's the old thing, like I mean, musicians play and musicologists think, right? And so it's reason that they think that the split of body and mind, and so that's a, and we are joking here privately, like I mean, Laura said, they are all men, and then, and I say they are very quick to boast
Not
their
me, not me.
opinions. Okay, well, but I think it's very interesting that we are all starting to think on some of those how to say, some of those issues. And I think we have come a long way. I think we are maturing. The society, it's like the old are going. I mean, it's like we are recycling. And I think, in even like in the topics, like and so I think it's a positive point, I would say.
Sure. Well, still have something about 2 or 3 minutes, I think. Robert has told me we ought to finish at 4 o'clock. So I don't know why. I don't know if the link is over or if, I don't know why, but I was told so. But it's open. We can still have some. Catherine.
Yeah. Hello from Venezuela. I want to ask you, Julio, what is the third book about? What is the third book about? The third book you proposed, no?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I think we all want to change the world. We can begin to change our list and our association, maybe.
Yeah, but I am asking, what is the topic of the third book you spoke about?
No. As I thought that discussions end in publications, and I think that the current discussions could become also a book, but I don't know which topics are important at the moment. I think a very important point is intersectionality and music and races and gender and class. I think it's very important points. And maybe this is the next topic we can organize as a publication, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting to think about kinds of membership, kinds of members that discuss some kinds of topics in our lists, and we are very engaged with some of these topics, but we're not sure. We cannot be sure that these topics are really spread in all members, all the consumers. Yes, the consumers members. I don't know this category, which is the biggest. So we can't be sure about it, but we can propose. We can propose the topics. We can lead some discussions and see what happens. The issues, the symposium about feminism were always crowded.
I wanted to remark this contradiction between a lot of consumers and a minority which leads the discussions. Yeah.
Yes, so it's very relevant. I think it's a wonderful topic for us to think and to try to reduce this difference. Well, we've got 2 more people raising hands here, and I'm afraid we can allow them to make their comments, and then we finish our table. No, only one. Christopher.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the interesting input. I'm situated in Germany, and I'm now, since I heard it from other regions in the world about popular music and organizations, and now we also had these topics come up like the scientific language in English in a predominantly Spanish-speaking area, and also the separation between, or the interconnections between Western academia and Latin American academia. And I'm interested how important the identity construction is in academia, especially in Latin America, in contrast to Western academia, and how, because it's mostly driven through theories, how theories are implemented into Latin American academia, and is there a kind of urge to challenge these theories, or will they be just applied to the regional context? This was my question.
Anybody wants to comment? No?
I'm not sure. Julio, go on.
No, tú dijiste que todos somos hombres, ya no hablo.
I'm not sure if I understood correctly, or even if I agree with the idea that in the European academia there is more theoretical work, and in Latin America more like applied theories from outside. I don't know if I understood well.
Yeah, I
meant
the
idea.
You know, the idea is because there's this kind of tradition of critical theory or post-structuralism that are situated in Central Europe, and how they are applied, so the way they are applied to other contexts, especially in your area. So if they are just like, do you use the Marxist class system, or is it just applied, or do you change it in a way to fit the purpose in that sense?
I don't have a general response to that, but I would say that my feeling is that scholars from Latin America have a long history of reading people from outside. So there is a lot of theory from Europe and North America and the global North, which is applied to our context, but also our own theoretical production, which is not necessarily read from people in the global North. So I think some of the answer goes in that direction. It has to do with the need of communicating and not only spreading debates that are already synchronized with what is being discussed in the dominant institutions. I don't know if, okay, I'm going to let it here.
I would like to add something in this Laura was talking about. There is a very well-known sociologist in Brazil called Renato Ortiz, and he has a wonderful book about the language, the use of English in social science.
Yes.
And he said that it's funny that social science it's hard to translate, because the concepts, they are built and constructed under one series of concepts that are linked to the language. So he was very strong criticism on translation of this kind. And moreover, he said, we in Latin America, we are really international, because we read the Central European production and we read our production, so we are more easily doing a kind of theoretical and empirical approach that has an international approach. And he took as an example some studies regarding the bibliography used in North American US papers and books. And they say US scholars only read US and UK scholars. And you see the bibliography we use in Latin America, we read also the US and UK scholars, but we read Latin American scholars as well. And we try to read South African scholars, Indian scholars, and try to read, of course, depending on language limits, but it's a very interesting approach and thinking about the internationality of our discussion. Go ahead, Julio.
I would say that everyone knows in Latin America that science and academia are products from Europe, are coming to us as a result of a colonial history. But for this reason, we are aware that we are using tools from the enemy in order to transform it and to make our own theories. And I would say there is a lot of thinkers from Latin America who are very important, not only for Latin America, but for the whole world. For example, Renato Ortiz, Aníbal Quijano, or Rita Segato. Also in the popular music studies, Marta, Ana Maria Ochoa, Chalena Vázquez. There is a lot of people who are thinking how we can research without repeating the colonial structures from Europe. Unfortunately, we don't are read from other continents or from other academia in the world, because there are hierarchies and there are power relationships between the first world and Latin America or other academies. So I'm finished.
I'd like here to thank Christopher for his topic that allowed us to bring this issue. As we're talking about inequalities, we have a strong debate about this kind of scientific and scholarly inequalities that we face nowadays on a daily basis. Our universities imply us to be international, which means publish in English. And this is something that is very, very updated here, the current situation in our country. So it's very interesting to raise this debate. Unfortunately, we run out of time. We don't have time to go further in this debate. So I have the unpleasant role here to end this meeting and to thank so much Laura and Julio and Marta for their contribution. I was sure when I thought about this meeting that would be
why
very,
people
very
don't
good.
open the videos so
Yes.
and somebody take a picture.
Let's
I don't know
take
how
a
to take the picture. Please open the video.
If we,
Hello, hello, hello.
Antes mundo era pequeno, porque terra era grande. Hoje mundo é muito grande, porque terra é pequena, do tamanho da antena parabólica. Camará, volta do mundo, camará. Mundo dá volta, camará. Antes longe era distante, perto só quando dava, quando muito ali der fronte, e o horizonte acabava. Hoje lá atrás dos